Good evening, Diablo fans. So tonight, special episode. This time of year always has a lot of personal memories for me. There's a couple of big events that happen here, the end of March, beginning of April, and you can probably already tell by the title of tonight's episode, episode 161, The Birthday Reaper. We'll be talking a little bit about, you know, the Reaper of Souls 5th anniversary that's going through and just passed a few days ago on March 25th. But also in this episode, we've got some more things to cover. Still no word on Season 17. We've got PAX East going through, coming up. Some interesting thoughts on Diablo Immortal. We say goodbye to Diablo fans. And some very interesting developments on the upcoming art book that I think you all might be interested in. But with that, without further ado, let's just go ahead, get right into the episode. And thanks everybody for going through and joining me here tonight. We're going through, coming out. Yeah, like I said, just a couple days ago, we're recording here. It's the 27th. Back on Monday, the 25th, was the 5th anniversary of Reaper of Souls. And that is something that just is always going to be one of my favorite, like, all-time, like, just Diablo or Blizzard memories in general. It was an awesome event that they had taken a bunch of the content creators from across the globe, invited them out to LA to go through and be a part of more or less the developers' launch party. It was something that originally started as a big celebration for all of the devs for the launch of Reaper, and it really is just how passionate they were about this project, you know, at its infancy. And just, you know, how much that they had believed that this is something that they were doing that was going to course correct for Diablo 3 in general. And they were extremely happy. They wanted to go through and share a lot of that with the rest of the world. And so they had like a big live stream. And it was also just a place of just like creating some memories. It's not the first time that I had met Nevelistus. I had actually met her at the BlizzCon beforehand. It was the first time that I actually got to like kind of hang out and get to know her a little better. And also, it's one of the places I first got to actually meet, you know, Leviathan, Steven. It's the first time I actually got to meet him face to face. And we had been kind of like working on and off on the Diablo and Gamers podcast for a couple of years at that point, and you know, it was the first time that we got to meet in person, as well as just, you know, some other people from the Diablo community. Archon, it was the first time that I got to meet him face to face, as well as, you know, like Taffer from our Diablo, and, you know, Waterfiend Blake, who is also another contributor over at Ink Gamers. And it was just really like, just, I can't even really put it into words, like, just because everywhere you turn is like some sort of like a big celebrity. You know, you had a whole bunch of like, I remember talking briefly with like Rotterdam and Mr. Bitter, you know, when the North American Star League for StarCraft 2 was actually still a thing back then. Is just they had like everyone, because, and it wasn't even like so much that was like a big PR event, which of course it was, but it was something that they legitimately just wanted to celebrate the launch. And then now here we are like 5 years later, and a couple months ago we kind of learned that also maybe it was one of the reasons for such a huge celebration was a little bit bittersweet, because they knew that at that point in time, the second expansion for Diablo 3 that they had already begun some of a pre-work on had been canceled, and they were told, no, that's it, cut it, we're done. You've got a little bit more stuff to do that you have as far as like the product cycle for Reaper of Souls, but you need to go and start working on Diablo 4 now. So maybe, you know, in that context, looking back at that launch party has even then just like a little bit of a different feel. Archon was there? Yes, Longshot is going through and asking in chat. Archon, not only was Archon there, Archon was actually one of the people that went through in live stream. There was also Shinobi and Day 9 were live streaming the game from the venue. It was awesome. It was like this church that had been renovated into like a like kind of like a party hall. You could rent it out for parties and such. And so it's all, all of these like, crosses and the huge like ceiling and all that. And you were standing in the middle of it. Still was a church, and so it was beautiful. And everything was all like red lights and all that. As soon as it hit midnight and the Reaper of Souls servers went live, it was just boom. Everything switched over to like that tealish blue with the coloration that they did for Reaper of Souls. There was drinks, there was like little contests you could go around and do like all these like little party games and such to get like I think it was like a backpack, a t-shirt, and some other things. And then also they had you could get a collector's edition and then have it signed by all the developers, and that's actually the one that you have going through and sitting up right above me there. Where is it? Right there. And it was cool, getting to talk to a lot of the devs, like the voice actors and such that were there, and it's also just about like the people and the connections that you make. And this is still, I was talking about a little bit on the pre-show, but this is still like one of my favorite pictures ever. And that's obviously, Leviathan, that didn't realize just how tall he was. Because I'm 5'11", I'm not exactly short, but the man is gigantic. Then, Taffer from our Diablo, and then Blake Waterfiend, Tivolier over there on the other side. That was before he had started at Blizzard. And he's actually like bending down because he's actually quite tall himself. But it was just like a group of people that I had come to know and work with. With in the case of like Leviathan and Blake, for like a couple of years at that point. And then just at the same time going through getting to connect and meet with Archon. Because we had been talking for a couple months at that point about wanting to go through and start a Diablo podcast. And it was just something that, it was on again, off again, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. What type of format will we do? How will we fill content? How will we go through and continue to do the show? And then, we were both he was streaming at the launch party. And I just had the invitation to go through and be there because of the work that I had been doing at BlizzPro, and we met up and we talked, and we were both just like, wow. Like, obviously we had access to the beta and playing the game, and we knew that this was going to be like game changing as far as everything that was going and introducing, but being there and talking with the developers and just seeing how passionate everyone was about the game. Josh's constant jokes and quips about ladders in seasons and stuff like that. That was before any of that was confirmed, and we had seasons before like greater rifts and any of that stuff. And we were just in just like shock and awe of just how much passion was really being put like into this the development and the franchise itself. And just we were just like, before the night was over, we're like, yeah, this is something that we're doing. We're making this podcast. And then just a couple days later, we did episode 1, which is again why this is such a special time of the year for me personally, is because on April 2nd is going to be the 5th anniversary of the Westmarch Workshop. So we're going to have the little 5-year birthday party for the Westmarch. And that also means I will of course mention this again at the end of the episode, but I am changing the stream schedule just a little bit. So I'm actually going to be recording episode 162 next week on April 3rd as kind of like a nice little birthday celebration for the show. And maybe we'll have some season 17 updates. by then, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, there's one other memory that I do want to share about that Reaper of Souls launch party. And that was, what was it? Debauchery, Shaw of Happiness. She had kind of like put together like the room reservations and such, and so we were like, it was just like the one night. Literally, I got into LA like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then was flying back out 6 a.m. in the morning. It was just in and out, one and done, like real quick type thing. That night, after the Reaper of Souls launch party, everyone else in the country was going through and playing Diablo Reaper of Souls, but we were there in LA, 1,000 miles away from my computer, in order to go back through and play. But Jh, which hopefully some of you longtime listeners are going to remember, Jh, huge content creator for the community, wizard, master extraordinaire, brought his laptop and was playing on the hotel Wi-Fi to go and beat Reaper of Souls. And so as soon as we had gotten back from the launch party, like 1:30 a.m., he immediately just kicked on his laptop, started playing through, rushing through the story, and it was like, I think I was like waking up at like 4 a.m. or something like that, and he's still up, bashing his head against the wall, trying to kill Malthael on Torment 1, and it was just like, well, why don't you just, drop the difficulty, beat him then, and then go and like farm gear? And he's just like, no. Set items only drop in Torment difficulty, and Malthael has guaranteed legendaries. It's most efficient to kill him on Torment to try and get the set pieces. And so he was trying for forever to just get that lucky RNG streak in order to kill Malthael on a difficulty much, much higher. I think he actually ended up doing it, and that he was successful, but you're talking, oh my god, it was... I actually don't know how long before I woke up that he was trying to go through and do it, but it was easily like an hour's worth of playtime that he had sunk into it, trying to go through and do that on Torment. It was just hilarious. It was just that, because it's all about efficiency. How many times have we had conversations over the years with not just Leviathan but Archon before him, talking about like efficiency. For some people, efficiency equals fun, and so it's just doing it the best way possible in order to set yourself up for success. Yeah, that's just some of those things that I really enjoy about the launch of Reaper of Souls. And now I want to put the question off to you, the listener. What do you all? What is your favorite memory from like the launch of Reaper of Souls? Was it like going through, finding your first set? Was it beating like just experiencing that difficulty with Malthael for the very first time? What was it that kind of like drew you into Reaper of Souls? Even if you didn't play at launch, what was like your first like favorite experience that you had from Reaper? When you actually went through, bit the bullet, and went and hopped in. Because I've seen posts of people that, even to this day, that are finally giving Reaper of Souls like its first chance. Like they played the original Diablo 3, didn't like it, and then they decided, well, what the hell? Let me go through and give it a shot. Speaking of which, right now, Reaper of Souls is on sale. So it's one of those things that if you haven't given it a shot, or someone that used to play the game, ended up not liking it, and has since kind of like quit, and that they will enjoy Reaper of Souls, and you want to go through and get them to give it another chance. From now until April 9th, Reaper of Souls as well as the Necromancer pack are on sale. So if they just have the original Diablo, they can buy Reaper of Souls for $10. If it's something that you want to go through and try and get someone into the game, the whole package is $20, and then the Necromancer pack is on sale right now for $10. So it's something to go through, try and get them, get them to experience, what kind of more or less saved Diablo 3, brought the game up to, you know, higher potential of what it could have been, you know, from the get-go. So yeah, go through, check that out. And you can always find links and all that and stuff over at diablo.blizzpro.com. You know, in order to go through and find, you know, where you can purchase the game. And it is for PC only. The console versions, I don't believe are on sale at the moment, but it's definitely, if you know, if you know anybody, you know, or if you're listening to the show and you decided that you're on the fence about going through and playing Diablo, well, now's the time. Now is definitely worth going through and checking into it. Moving on, you know, from the thoughts of yesteryear. We have season 17. I was really hoping that we might have a PTR by now, but it seems that that we don't. So it's making it look a little bit more. We're past that kind of 2-month window from what the old team used to do for their PTRs. It's looking like we might be back down to like the 1-week PTR, maybe a couple weeks. Not quite sure, but it's just gonna be something to go through and keep an eye out. I believe with the way that season 16 worked, they released the PTR about a month before its release, so we could see the PTR actually hit live anytime within the next couple of weeks. Until then, we're just not sure. We'll have to wait for official word on Blizzard from that, and otherwise, I'll definitely go through, keep my ear to the ground on that. As soon as we hear anything, we'll definitely let you know. But yeah, not a lot coming in terms of that news at the moment. But we will go through and find out. Other than that, I know that some people were going through and asking some questions about PAX East. And I know Blizzard is going to be at PAX East, but unlike in previous years, they don't really have a itinerary of events. They normally, a couple weeks beforehand, they would post a schedule of all of the events that they're going through. And for this year, I could not find one, so I'm not sure. And then the official PAX East schedule itself isn't very forthcoming with information either. There's a single World of Warcraft panel that is scheduled for Friday, I believe, but it's being hosted by, I believe it was like a former writer from the Chicago Tribune, and not someone at Blizzard, so I don't know if there'll actually be Blizzard people on that panel, but it doesn't look like we're going to have anything Diablo related. I haven't heard any rumors or anything like that we're going to have any new Immortal announcements at PAX East, and so that was something that we will just have to continue to play it by ear and wait and find out. And I do not expect anything really Diablo related for this PAX East, unfortunately. So we're going through and asking a couple of the questions that I got on Twitter and on YouTube and such. Not looking too good as far as any announcements coming up anytime shortly. But going through, into that, taking it a step further as far as like Diablo Immortal goes, don't really have any further updates since the last episode. There's not anything that Blizzard has released. They're still on full radio silence since BlizzCon as far as any type of promotions go. Have not been able to find like any type of confirmations from that thing that we reported on a couple episodes ago about the Taiwanese website that was saying that the beta itself was imminent and that they could go and preload the game on kind of like the Asian servers. That has since not come over on this side or in other regions, so still don't know. But tying this into the community feedback section, we did have an email from Andreas that he has a little bit of experience of something that he had with a kind of Diablo Immortal-like game, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the community section. but there's also been just some other like little questions and comments. There seems to be some, it's getting to the point where people just want more information. Love it or hate it, people just want to know more. Like, what exactly is Blizzard's plan for Diablo Immortal? And there's a recent Reddit thread that went up by Darth Shabari that was kind of like asking some questions about like hardcore mode in a mobile game. Now, this is one, since I don't really have a lot of experience with mobile games, I'm not sure if there's any that really do a hardcore mode, but just something that's if your carrier drops, well, you're dead. Talk about like just having like a little lag spike or anything like that. Imagine getting a phone call while playing the game and your character dying because of it. But also just the nature of it being more of a group focused gameplay style, with like the group dungeons and potentially maybe one-day raids or anything like that. I don't really see them going and doing the hardcore route, because when you're going through with hardcore, you're more or less, before you tackle more difficult content, you have to have a realistic expectation that you'll be capable of doing it. In anything that begins to resemble an MMO, the more difficult content is something that you expect that you're going to spend time wiping on, and that you're not actually going to be able to completely beat any encounter the very first time. And that's just kind of like a standard in any MMO, that it's going to take weeks, if not months, going through and trying to do kind of progression in content. And with those constant wipes and death, that doesn't really jive well with the hardcore experience. And it's not something I'm sure if hardcore mode won't have a place in a mobile version of Diablo, but in an MMO version of Diablo. I haven't looked in too much into Torchlight Frontiers, and I don't know how they're going through and handling it, because that's from from Runic Games and some of the original creators of Diablo, founders of Blizzard North. If they have any ideas about how they're handling like a hardcore mode in a MMO light type scenario. If you have any thoughts or you have any experiences with games or anything like that, by all means, let me know. Send me an email. I want to know more about your experiences that you've had with a lot of these kind of mobile games. Andrews is specifically kind of like a Monster Hunter clone, and I'll show some gameplay footage once we go through to cover his email. There's a lot of some interesting stuff, some interesting questions about where you're able to like make concessions in terms of like kind of like core features that have become like staples of the franchise, as well as taking it a step forward in evolving ARPGs themselves. We'll go through, keep an eye on it, and there's one other thing that I did want to mention. I kind of did this out of order, but there is now, with all the positive memories that I have around this time of year, there's now going to be a negative one, and that's with also just a few days ago, last week, Diablo fans has officially shut down and gone into archive mode back on March 21st. So you no longer can make comments, you can no longer make posts on the forums, you can't make any builds or update anything, and it's all effectively been locked down and closed. The fact that they're not actually fully shuttering the website, I guess, allows me to remain hopeful that, as I talked about in the last episode, this is going to be a big year for Diablo fans, that we should have a lot of big announcements and multiple projects coming to light, and that there's going to be a lot of news and a lot of stuff to go through and cover. So I hope that maybe that means that they'll go through and resurrect when and if things go through and get bigger and better. but we'll just have to wait and see. No, I've been saying that a lot on this episode, but it is one of those ones where it's like it's just a weird time to be in, that we more or less we know we've got all these big things coming, but we know nothing about them. Even the thing that we know is coming, like Diablo Immortal, we know so little because they've just been so quiet on. And I do wonder if the reaction to the announcement of the game has caused them, to go into a radio silence. If there were marketing plans in place beforehand to go through and do like little press tours or other things of that nature. It almost makes me want to say probably not, and that this is kind of like where they were intending to go all around. Because even though the reaction was mostly negative, like in the US and the EU, there have been quite a few Diablo Immortal communities that have been popping up, over in the Chinese and Asian servers. And I would think that they would at least do some sort of like press roll, over on that side, at least to give information and updates to a community that is interested in like wanting them and doesn't have as much vitriol or negative reactions to it that you would, like, say, going through and doing PR events over here or press interviews and such. Just because the way that everything is all global, those interviews would make their way over, so we would still get the news. It would still go through, get out there, and get kind of dispersed across the wild. But it would be taking it from the stance that we're giving the information to a market that really wants to know more. But I'm sure though that there also is a lot here that is actually interested in the game, because we're just seeing the reactions from the PC fans. When there are literally millions and millions of console fans that are out there, as well as maybe fans that remember the original or Diablo 2 and just kind of like fell out of gaming, but they still go through and they play mobile games. They're like, oh, that might be cool. I could go through and check that out. I remember playing that game 20 years ago. I would love to hear like kind of like trying to put it into words. Shortly after the Reaper of Souls, Josh Mosquera went, and it was at a couple of like developer conferences like GDC and some other events. He talked about kind of like the post-mortem of Diablo 3 and how Reaper kind of resurrected the game and their like passion for it, because they saw like all the good that they could do and the community's reaction to it. They wanted to really deliver that core experience to the fans. If we'll see any style like that for Immortal, if we'll have any conversations. This is obviously something that was going to take place, like well after launch and such, about how their reactions internally were after the initial reactions from the launch. No, who knows? We might never know. But we do have some positive things to go through and talk about here. And that is from a couple episodes ago. We talked about how Blizzard announced a official Diablo art book. And they had just like a kind of like a little splash page that, hey, we're doing like a art of StarCraft, art of Hearthstone, like an art of Diablo. We're doing a whole bunch of new like little art books and such, and it'll be going through and coming later this year. And there have been a couple of little changes. I think I just mentioned it offhand a couple episodes ago, that they had placed some filler art on the Amazon page. Well, it's changed. It's changed and it's cool. And so they have now gone through and updated what's now more or less shaping up to be what could be the official cover of the book itself. And if we go and we zoom in on the actual page itself here, give me 1 second. I saved this and then I closed it. So here we go. You get to see a much better close-up of the book cover itself. Now this is starting to look something that actually is official, but there's two very important names down there at the bottom of the book. Forward by Brahm, who is an amazing artist and actually contributed some pretty amazing pieces of concept art to the original Diablo 3, as well as Reaper of Souls. And then an introduction by Chris Metzen. Now, Chris Metzen, in addition to just being kind of like, the main story guy at Blizzard, was, even before he was in that position, when he kind of he'd only been working at Blizzard for a little bit, it was him and Bill Roper that wrote like the majority of the story for the original Diablo. That Chris Metzen contributed to some of the in-game story for Diablo 2, and was the guy that wrote I believe the sole writer of the scripts for all of the cutscenes in Diablo 2. Helped with the story and the development of Diablo 3, kind of geared the setting and the story, and kind of like went in later, laid the framework for like the lore and the more or less the construction of the entire universe of Diablo. If you go through and you read the Book of Cain, it talks about like the early history, like the prehistory of the universe, which in the Diablo universe they refer to as creation, all of creation, capital C. And the book itself, was written. The Book of Cain was written by Matt Burns and Robert. I can't remember his name. Let me find that real quick. But it was written by them. But in interviews interviews with them, with the writers and such, Robert Brooks were the two creative writers that were in charge of going through and doing not just the Book of Cain, but the Book of Tyrael and the Book of Adria as well. Really great guys. They do a lot of these lore compilations across all the franchises. They said that when they were talking about the creation of the Book of Cain, that it was like multiple meetings of sitting down in a boardroom with just a pen and paper and listening to Chris Metzen go through and just lay out everything about how he had all of these ideas about how the universe was structured, all these things, and it later kind of made some sense because of everything that had happened with Project Titan, the development of Overwatch, and then him subsequently, like kind of shortly thereafter, leaving the company. That it sounds like maybe like the Book of Cain and those things were things that he did so that way he could get all of his ideas out there and laid out, so that way everyone at Blizzard kind of knew where these concepts and characters and such, where the apotheosis of them started at, where he kind of like had that base framework for creating this world that we obviously all enjoy being a part of. Otherwise, well, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you weren't a Diablo fan. You don't necessarily have to be playing Diablo today. You don't even have to like Diablo 3 or Diablo Immortal. If you're listening to the show, you like Diablo, and that's all that there is to it. Whether it's Diablo 1, whether it's Diablo 1 of Hellfire, RIP Sierra Games, Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction, Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls. Hell, if you only care about Immortal and don't give a crap about the rest of the franchise, you're still a Diablo fan, in my book. And that's what matters. But yeah, So this is gonna be interesting because, you know, with just it's gonna have that section, you know, one, like the art of Diablo that's written by such like you know, Braum is just such a prolific artist, with kind of like a horror and like fantasy and some like Geiger-esque stuff. He was like one of my two favorite artists for Magic the Gathering. It was Braum and Ron Spencer, and then just like I should probably have pulled it up so that way I could have it here on the show. Let me see if I can find it. But it's the Tyrael art piece, concept art that Braum did is just one of like my all-time like favorite depictions of Tyrael. And I'm not finding anything of decent size. Come on now. We can do this. I believe in you. There we go. Alright, found it. Here we are. So this piece of art here, but just like, you know, that's... It's just, you know, his artwork is so amazing. It's so beautiful. You should go through, check it out. Not just like his Diablo stuff, because he also did like some concept art for what was it? The serpents from Act 2. You know, he did some concept art for that, and some other things. It's absolutely beautiful stuff. You know, I'm pretty sure that the whatever form that forward takes is going to be his talk about things that he was inspired about, you know, from the Diablo franchise and the memories that invokes. But I'm really going to be interested in hearing Chris Metzen's thoughts on this and what he's going to have to say. Now here, a few years removed from just working at Blizzard in general, and going through and looking back, you know, because Warcraft, StarCraft, those were things that Blizzard had done before Metzen had joined the company. Diablo was one of those projects that he helped found, and something that, you know, he had a huge hand in. Not just, you know, obviously he had a very big role in going through and developing some of our favorite characters from the Warcraft universe of Warcraft 3, but you know, almost anything that you enjoy, you know, characters or story-wise, from even going back to the original Diablo, he probably had some part in it. You know, if you've read through the old manuals for Diablo 1, Diablo 2, those were almost entirely written by him. So, you know, like if you enjoy those aspects of the story, there's a lot of people out there that like to knock on Metzen's story style and his constant use of the redemption arcs and such. But if you liked any of those stories or little lore tidbits, I remember the first time reading through, I didn't even know that there was a story in the Diablo 2 manual until I was going on like Ariat Summit, and oh god, there's a Tristan theme. Anyways, talk about memories. And it had referred to the Necromancer as a priest of Rathma, and I'm like, where the hell is this from? And so I go back into the manual, and then there it is, the whole story about it, and it's like, oh shit, this is actually pretty awesome. And, you know, just going back and reading through that manual, like just page by page, the backstory and the history of all of the characters, things about the world and such, and then actually taking the time to go back through the game and talk to every single one of the NPCs and learning more about what's going on. And then later learning that they had a novel series? Like, what? Like, they're making books about this game? I love this game. I need to go through and read more about this. And, well, here we are. You know how that turned out. But yeah. I'll be very, very interested in going through and checking out that art book. I was already sold on it before, because, hey, you know, I love collecting things. But now it's not just an art book. This is something that's like gonna be, that at least should be personal to like every Diablo fan that's out there. And it makes me wonder if this is gonna be not just like Diablo 3, but this is gonna be stuff from Diablo 1, Diablo 2, maybe even, you know, Immortal and such. And so I cannot wait. It has a street date at the moment of October 15th, though, you know, that changed a lot for the Book of Adria. That got delayed by a couple months. So we'll sorry for saying it again, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I think that's probably going to be like the theme of this year, is wait and see. It's just God, it's like that hype where you've got so much to potentially talk about that you want to talk about it, but you don't know any of the details with which to talk about. If that makes any sense whatsoever. But anyways, going on into the community section here. We've got the email that we have to read from Andrews. And he goes through and writes, "Sup, fellas?" I guess it's sup, fella, for the moment. Long time no write, and the reason is that D3 no longer gives me as much joy as it used to, and this seasonal theme didn't do much to help it. On the other hand, still haven't missed a single episode of your podcast, and I appreciate it. Meanwhile, I'm waiting for the next season. I gave a shot of the latest NetEase mobile game, Rangers of Oblivion. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's actually good. Gameplay is not limited by some overtime refilling stamina bar. Microtransactions are minimal, like stash space, character skins, follower skins. You can even acquire premium currency by playing the game and doing dailies, and the best part is that not a single microtransaction is forced up in your face. Gameplay is satisfying. I'm using Armored Glove, so it's basically a Diablo 3 monk. It starts with Way of the Hundred Fists, Dashing Strikes, and Seven-Sided Strike skills. Later you can unlock different runes, you can change your weapon, and you can change your class, so equipping a staff, you become a D3 wizard going and shooting Magic Missile, channeling Disintegrate. You play in an open world, and when you get a quest, you're teleported to the instance in a very similar method to Diablo 3's Rifts. Kill some mobs and or gather some resources and then kill a boss. All bosses have something to cut off like tail, horn, wings. If you do so before killing it, you get extra loot. I hope that Diablo Immortal will be something similar and not just a cash grab. P.S. Don't think I abandoned the PC Master Race. I just finished Metro Exodus and now Slaying Demons in the latest Devil May Cry. Both are fascinating games in their own right. P.S.S. Added my latest Primal of the season. Please see the attachments. We'll go through and check that out. But first, I want to go through and show a little bit of gameplay that I was able to find. And we'll switch over here. And so, as you go through and see, it has a very similar control mechanism. You can see with kind of like the middle button, and then your skills, you know, set around there for going through and playing. The gameplay style is very reminiscent of Monster Hunter, you know, where you're going through fighting the beasts. Even the description where, you know, it's like, oh, you break off a horn, you get extra loot, or like if you break off a tail, you actually get like an extra carve from the old Monster Hunter series. But while I was going through and looking it up, I don't believe that this title was made by NetEase. I believe it was a different developer that went through and made Rangers of Oblivion. Give me 1 second. Should have had this in the notes, but I didn't because I'm new at this whole podcasting thing. Let's see. It is Yaozu Games from Hong Kong. You know, but that kind of control scheme of having the buttons, you know, laid out in the bottom right, with then the movement set on the left, is something that is kind of like, I guess, a standard in a lot of mobile action titles, and so it's not strange to go and see that type of gameplay. That was actually one of the things that took me a little while in order to get used to while playing the Diablo Immortal demo back at BlizzCon, was that you don't actually have to have your finger in that little circle on the left-hand side. that control analog actually will appear anywhere where you put your left thumb. So you don't have to worry about keeping your movements constrained to that little circle. It can actually go anywhere, and it will detect the inputs. Sometimes when I was going through and playing while I was still getting the hang of it, like my finger would keep going over and over and over into the middle of the screen and blocking, gameplay. Maybe I just need a bigger phone. I don't know. I prefer a phone that fits in my pocket, but maybe that's just me. I'll be willing to see, waiting to see, what they do as far as the finalized control scheme for the game. If it's going to go through and continue to use that setup, or if they're going to do anything different with that. I mean, having that combo system that we saw. Not in the gameplay demo itself, but in one of the panels from the second day of BlizzCon, where you could actually like combo skills together for additional effects. I think it's going to be one of those ones that's going to be like absolutely game changing, not just for Diablo, but kind of like for the ARPG, genre itself, where you actually get like those different compounded effects by using certain skills, not just because I'm going to use this skill to give myself a damage buff, but just I'm going to use this skill, which fundamentally alters the way that my other skills will interact with the mobs. And then just to go through and show Andreas's primal that he went through and set in. It's the Jade Harvester's shoulders, and these bad boys clock in at 650 intellect. 130 all resist, a 20% chance for area damage, has been re-rolled to increase haunt damage by 15%. The secondaries of health globe and gold pickup range by 2 yards, as well as plus 39,000 health when you use a potion or pick up a health globe. So some pretty damn awesome rolls on the gear there. Pickup range is absolute awesome secondary to go through and get for witch doctors. They love that stat. But with that, it'll pretty much bring us to the close of the show. Definitely thanks everyone for going through and joining me here tonight. I appreciate you coming through, watching the live show. Appreciate all you going through, checking out the video on YouTube, as well as listening onto iTunes, Stitcher. Apparently, we've been on Spotify for a while there. I didn't know that, but we are. If you want to go through and check it out, apparently you have to search for BlizzPro, not Westmarch, for whatever reason that is not showing up in those search results when you do that search. But yeah, as always, if you want to go through and send me in your feedback, your comments, your questions, your loot that you want to have shown off on the show, please go through. Send me an email at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Again, that is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. You can also follow the show at the WM Workshop to find out when we're going through and going live. You can also follow me personally. I am 9ballgamer on Twitter. And then you can always catch the live stream here, usually every other Wednesday at twitch.tv/BlizzPro, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Next week will be the exception. We will actually, I will be going live next week. That will be April 3rd. With a new episode, just to go through, celebrate the show's birthday, and I'm taking a much-needed vacation the week afterwards, so I won't even be in town to record an episode for the following week. But we won't talk about that. It was definitely all because of the show's birthday. That's 100% why I'm changing the syncing of the episodes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, if you like the show, or if you like the BlizzPro network as a whole, please feel free to go ahead and follow and/or subscribe. The subscription fees that we go through and we take from Twitch not only support the hosting costs of Westmarch Workshop, but also go towards the hosting costs of the BlizzPro network as a whole. Which feel free to go through, check out diablo.blizzpro.com to hear everything that we talked about on the show and more. A lot of cool little updates and such that Dreadscythe has been going through and covering, such as like Kanai's Stopping Grounds is here for the next couple of days. The Reaper of Souls sales. The put together some stuff about the Netflix Diablo series and what we know. So it's definitely worth going through, checking out over there. We are even in game. We are the BlizzPro clan. We've got plenty of openings. Season 17 is a little over a month away. We'd be more than happy to go through and give you a spot to come and play with us. You can also join us, the Westmarch Workshop community, to go through and chat if you don't want to leave your current clan. You always have a place to go through and just chat as well at discord.gg/BlizzPro. And again, just go through, check out the BlizzPro series of websites because we cover everything: Hearthstone, Warcraft, pretty much every Blizzard title. Then we even have just a general geek site, the Yeti Arcade, if you want to go through and check what we have over there. And again, you can follow me individually at 9ballgamer on Twitter, at twitch.tv/9ball. Maybe while I'm on vacation, might do a little bit of streaming once I'm back home. Who knows? I'll actually have some free time. We'll see. Long shot. No promises, though. I'm sure he's already getting ready to go through and type some smart comment about me and streaming. But with that, this is going to bring us to a close for this episode. Again, thank you all for coming out and listening and joining us here. And yeah, we've got an interesting year ahead of us. I really hope, though I'm not exactly sure, we'll have some stuff to talk about for Season 17 in the next episode. But who knows? We might. And we might even get a surprise from PAX East, though I doubt it.